Do you ever wonder what happened to your friends from high school? I mean, you were so close. You laughed together, you cried together, you shared some of the best years of your lives together. And yet, somehow through life, you just lost touch. Now it's time to relive those moments once again. Introducing the podcast that takes you back in time to the place where it all began. This is Class Reunion. We're bringing you all the gossip, secrets, and scandals from your high school days that you won't want to miss. Join us as we catch up with old classmates and dive into the wildest stories from our high school days. From those legendary parties to the infamous cliques, we're spilling all the tea on who's who and what really went down. So grab a seat, turn your volume up, and get ready for a trip down memory lane. Class Reunion, the podcast that reunites us all. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Class Reunion. I am excited today as we continue our Father's Day episode, and I have with me Scott Hamm Duenas, and we're going to talk about the name. And also, I want to introduce him as a dad, husband, actor, and filmmaker in that order, because that is how he puts it on his social profile, which is telling in itself. And that's why I'm so glad we're going to have a conversation about being a father, because you put it first. And I thought, well, that's so cool and interesting. So I love that. So welcome, Scott.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me. And yes, I like that order, and you picked up on that very nicely.
I did. I was like, oh, he put it first. This is going to be awesome.
Yes.
So I want to start with the name, because I was careful about making sure I included it, not included it, pronounced it correctly. And you kind of have a cool story behind it. So do you want to share that? A lot of times it's Scott Hamm on your credits for your films, which we're going to get into because I watched Final Wager. We're going to talk about that. But how I love a little bit of what you already shared with me on the importance of having that part of your name. So do you want to share that part and your relationship with your mom?
Oh, yes, absolutely. My relationship with my mom, so important. Yes. So it's been a couple years now, but like now I'm having buyer's remorse. I should have done it when I very first started. It's my mother's maiden name. She's Tony Ann Duenas. And she had me really young. She had me when she was 17. So I think that made us extremely close, especially myself now being an old dad. I took the opposite route. It made us extremely close. And my mom's divorced from my dad, but she's been in the picture like literally every day, every second of my whole life, including my career, and so supportive. And I just thought, like, I'm not getting any younger. She's not getting any younger. She's such a huge supporter. Yeah. She's so excited every time that I get work or I book work. And the fun thing for us is to always watch the credits and see my name is kind of like the fun. It's like just like a fun nostalgic part, because we both loved movies growing up so much, and we still both love the movies. And I said, I feel like I've been cheating my mom this whole time. Why wouldn't I just take her maiden name and just at the very least use it as a stage name? And just because also I was very close to her parents, my grandparents, super close to them. They almost became like a surrogate dad for me. Once my dad was out of the picture, my grandparents, like, they were already super involved, but they stepped in even more. And I'm like, I'm so close to this side of the family. I feel like no disrespect to my dad, but I just felt like I owed it to them that this should be my little way of honoring them and keeping them close to me. And it's also a fun way that a lot of people don't know that I'm half Hispanic, that I'm half Spanish. And it's a way of also embracing that side. I have a lot of Spanish speaking family members and people that, I think that are close to me and I love. So I'm like, this is like killing a bunch of birds with one stone, and I should have done it earlier. And I love it. And the feedback has been great, because as an actor, you're scared. You're like, but I've already put in all these years as Scott Hamm. Now I'm going to screw it all up. And I think now I'm a little more self-aware too. I'm like, what am I going to screw up? Who cares? What? There was Pamela Lee, and then there was Pamela Anderson Lee. I'm like, no one cares. And she's like a super ginormous star. So I'm like, I'm putting it on there, and I'm calling SAG and telling them to put it on there. And it's been great. I'm super happy with it. And my mom, the first time she saw it, she cried. So I knew it went over well. Yeah. So, that's really the story. I've been crying
at all of these. Yeah, no, I love it, because I've been crying over all of these graduation videos that, people are graduating.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's been this trend going around where kids are going across and they've taken the stepdad's name.
Right.
And so it's the first time that stepdad has heard the name. I'm like, oh,
That,
that names matter.
yeah.
It's important to pay respect to the people that have raised you, right?
Right. That's, and like I said, no disrespect to my dad. He was great the 15, 16 years that I had him. But since then, it's just been, there was a long period of time where it was me, moms, and my sister and my grandparents. So, they deserve that. I didn't take his name out. I just added to it. And, I think it was a great choice. And yes, that is so cool. I'd never thought about, I got to go see a graduation video, some of these videos and check it out. Cause I'll probably start crying too.
Because I want to talk about father's roles. I think you have already an interesting aspect of what you learned from fatherhood, and where you are now with it. So your mom ended up marrying your dad at a young age. And if she did have you young, I can see where there was probably some battles of, is that why they got married? And that's a tough way to start a marriage when you're really young, having a child. But when you said he was with you for 15 years, that is a difficult age to then have a separation of a relationship. And full disclosure, Scott, that's exactly what happened to my son. It's a tough age. And so I'd love to know like how you handled that and what happened, that made that the best decision to walk away.
Yeah, and yes, I should give him his year. I believe I was 16. I was a senior in high school and I was 16 as a senior in high school. So, I'll give him his proper year to the 16, 17 range, I should have said. But yes, it's a tough age range because obviously, as you know, we're going through a lot of changes as a kid during that time, and a lot of things are happening in your life and happening to your body and happening to you and you kind of want that the man there to be like, hey, what's going on? What's happening to me? I had I've always kind of been a very easygoing guy. And I think even when I got older and really like look back at what was happening, because I think about it and some things make sense now. Like I can remember the last year or two when they were sleeping in separate rooms and then I would be like, what? And then, my mom would say, oh, it's just my back is terrible and our bed is so old. I like to sleep out on the couch for my back. And now you look back at it and go, yeah, we all know why you're on the couch now. And there was a lot of, of me being the messenger and not really thinking about that too until I got older and looked back and went, oh, I totally see what was going on now. Like mom would say, hey, when you see your dad, you make sure you tell him that today he's got to take you to baseball practice. I'd be like, sure. And then I would, say something like, hey, dad, mom said to remind you I'm going to, yes. And then, he'd be like, yeah, I'm taking you to practice. You tell your mom I wouldn't want to possibly bother her while she's out with her friends. And then like things like comments like that too. I'm like, oh man, I totally know what's happening. By the time I didn't even think about it. I just wanted to get to baseball practice. So I'm like, cool. So for me, it wasn't that like I didn't go through, I don't know if what this says about me in the positive or the negative. I didn't personally go through some big traumatic, tough experience with it. My dad was a really good dad for the years that I had him as a full-time dad. Like he didn't miss any of my games. I played sports for a long time. Didn't miss any of my games. I never missed a practice. If I needed a pair of cleats, I had them. You know what I mean? He coached a lot of my teams. So he was great. But then, yes. And then when they split, it was kind of weird when, dad's on this side of the bleachers at my high school game and mom's on this side of the bleachers. And you're just like, what? But I just never knew until I got older and kind of figured it out. But when he did leave though, it was like gone. Like that was kind of weird. He was just kind of gone. And he's not really good at the communication, the constant like, hey, I'm checking on you, boy. I'm checking in. It would be like a Christmas card or something like that. But I never, again, I don't know if this says something bad about me or good about me, that I never held any animosity to him because I was grateful for the dad years that he gave me. And what made it easy is I had like a super mom. So I didn't feel like I was really missing a lot because my mom still made sure I didn't miss out on anything. And she was always there for me in anything I wanted to do. She always supported it. Anything I wanted to do, she always made sure there was a way that I could do it, whether it was a baseball camp or a baseball league, or when I wanted to start acting, to help me with that. And with my sister, I think it was harder on my sister a little bit because we kind of took different paths, and she just couldn't, she's more emotional that way. Like daddy's girl, she was daddy's girl, and then daddy being gone, she was like, what is happening?
Oh,
This guy,
gee.
where is
Yeah.
this guy, and how come you're not mad at him? And you're an idiot too for not being, he's making it really hard on mom. And I never thought about that either, because I think my mom was so great that she didn't attack him in front of me, and she didn't, she wasn't always saying, well, we'd have money to do this if it wasn't for your dad, if you'd send us some money. She just never did that.
Did your dad remarry?
Yes, he's remarried twice since then. Yes, he's he's got married and divorced again, and then this new one, I think he married her, but they didn't have. See, we're not as tight. I don't know everything in his life, but I know he's retired. They live together in Kansas, and but yeah, he's legally married probably at this point anyway. So let's just stick with that. He's got married 2 more times, doesn't have any children. He's actually, to be full disclosure, he was married before my mom and had a couple kids in a marriage before my mom. So this would be the number of which I didn't know about till way later in life either. And he was 10 years older than my mom. So
there's probably some upbringing that he's working through too. Like he's German, and I forget what your father's German, and my dad was Irish and German. So that's why I'm going with your dad, like with his German background.
Yes.
I wonder if there's just, some other history too that he's never worked through, which is kind of why I wanted to have this discussion, because every generation is a little different and gets a little bit more in touch and learns more. And so we all had the good, bad, or indifferent of the father that was very strict and non-emotional, right? Like,
yes.
So when you decided to get into acting, like, did he then come out of the woodwork, or is it still been kind of distant?
No, still been kind of distant. Yeah. And he's just, if I called him right now.
Because you think he'd want him to, say, hey, that's my son. Yeah.
He's definitely not that. Definitely never did that. He's definitely never called thinking like I was a millionaire now and he needed to get some money. He's never tried to like brag about it, or he's never done anything. He's just been kind of okay. And then when I see him, he's just like, hey, or talk to him. I haven't seen him forever. I'll talk to him on the phone once a year or something now, especially since I've had the kids. I try and take the lead a little more and send him some texts and some pictures and stuff like that. But he's just will be really whatever. Or maybe once in a while he'd be like, hey, I saw a repeat of that show you did with that old boy, what's his name? Chuck Norris. I saw that one. I like that one. I'm like, oh, thanks, Dad. Thank you. And then he'll just move on. He'll be like, and he'll be like, yeah. You think your boy's going to play baseball too? Yeah, I don't know, Dad. Good talk though. He's a funny, like affable guy, but he's just he's an original. But yeah, he's not affected by any of the things that I do. Like he wouldn't be like, I'm totally proud of you, but he would also never be like, he would never say, or at least I've never heard him say, I'm so proud that you made it and that you did this. I showed everybody your movie or something. He doesn't do that. But he also never was the other way, which I thought it could have gone easier, of like, you want to do what with those fruity LA movie things? Like, cause he's definitely has a little of that to him, because he's a Vietnam vet, and he was kind of just sports and kind of that thing, but he wasn't like super strict either. He was pretty good. He always said that if I played sports, it was always important to him that I played sports and I got decent grades. He said we could pretty much leave me alone. I could have the late curfews and I stayed out of trouble. If you don't give me any reason, I don't need to be strict with you. I don't need to when I was a pretty decent kid through high school, I just played sports and went out on the weekends, like your normal, like cookie kind of thing, go to the parties and go to the dances and playing my games and come home with a bunch of friends and tear up the house. And that was really it. And so he kind of just let me be and do my thing. But he was a pretty emotional dude, though, when like something did go wrong. He would get really, really high or really, really low. Or, I wish could meet I hope he gets to meet his grandkids. I would love that. But if he doesn't, he doesn't. I look at it as like, if he doesn't, it's his loss. It's not mine. He's missing out on meeting 2 great grandkids. And same thing with my mom.
He hasn't met them yet?
He has not met them yet. Just on the phone or text messages and stuff. But I hope he gets to meet them one day. Yeah, no. See, now you sound like my mom. And my mom, too, she's like, I can't believe you wouldn't want to meet him. And he came to my wedding when I got married, though. He almost missed it, but he did come to the wedding. He showed up to my wedding. So I'm going to give him that. But that's just kind of accepted. That's my relationship with my dad. That's who he is. If he wants to get involved, the door's open. If he doesn't, I just look at it like no problem as well. It's just your loss. I hate to say this. Maybe I didn't need him because I had such a great mom, but look, he's done some wonderful. I look back on things. Another thing I'll give him credit for is I was like a latchkey kid, that old thing where both my parents worked like 9-to-5 jobs and they just had regular, like, lower middle class. Same, yeah. And these middle class jobs, my dad managed a clothing store at the mall and my mom was a secretary and insurance agent. But I don't remember ever not having anything I needed or ever being like, oh man, I wish I had a glove like that kid, or I wish I had shirts like these guys or shoes like that guy. They made it happen. So I look now as a parent and go, that must have been so hard to do, because it's hard now. Navigating this thing and trying to be everywhere at once and get 2 kids to right now just little to both to their school, to their swim lessons, to their soccer practice or whatever. It's hard to do that and be there all the time. And I have a pretty easy like up and down schedule where some days they got me the whole week 24/7. The next week I might not be around as much, but and mom works from home, so they have us around all the time. My dad and mom were never home. They were never home in the day. And then my mom would come home and find a way to feed us and get us to bed and get us ready the next day and come out. And there is different now. I make the lunches for the kids. And back then my mom would just leave, $5 or $4 on the table to buy lunch at whatever school I was going to. And that's bizarre too. I can't imagine that we just got to school too. I didn't take the bus. I just walked or rode a bike or a skateboard. And I'm like, I would never let my kid do that right now. There's no chance, but it worked. I'm here.
I know.
I'm here.
Rain, shine. We walked to school and you brought up something because, latchkey was new back then too, right? And so I was the crock pot. So it wasn't even so much throwing money for lunch. Everything was in the crock pot when we came home and my job was to like turn it on low. But interestingly enough, my jam after school was to watch General Hospital, which I think is hilarious because you were on General Hospital. I'm like, I meant to bring that up. Like that was my latchkey thing. I watched the Luke and Laura wedding, which makes me much older than you. But so you were on General Hospital as well. That's what everybody came home and watched after school.
GH was the one. I didn't start any kind of a soap opera. That's so awesome to hear, by the way. Good show, been around forever. I didn't catch I caught a little soap opera phase myself later. I had my roommate in the little college I went to all lived and died by Days of Our Lives. So it would always be on TV and we both had like the same downtime together. And I'd be like, what are you watching? Isn't there something on? Isn't there a baseball game on or something? And then, like a month later, I'm like, oh my God, is April really going to sleep with Johnny today? You know how addicting they can get for sure.
When you decided to have your children, walk me through, like, did you consciously know you wanted to do it differently or you knew you were going to differently? Like you just felt very comfortable in your new fatherhood role, or did you have any kind of like leftover trepidation of like, I got to get this right because I don't want to, have history repeat itself?
Right. It's definitely, it was a different journey for me. And in all honesty, I didn't think kids were going to be in the cards for me. Because when I chose to do this for a living, and especially at the beginning, it's a grind and there's no money and it's so hard. And I always said to myself, like, I'm not getting married and I'm not having kids until I'm like financially set and things are not so chaotic, and I'm not bartending till 4 a.m. to run to an audition at 11 a.m. in LA the next day and then run here and never be on. I'm like, I'd be a terrible dad and I'd be a terrible husband, and I'm just going to wait and wait and wait.
Aww.
And then you wait, and then all of a sudden you see other people getting married and other people having kids, and things in life is just kind of going, and you start to think, if I wait and it never happens, then I'm just going to say that I'm not going to ever be married, or not going to ever have kids just because I didn't like exactly where my career was at. That seems kind of crazy, because people every day have great marriages and are great parents that didn't necessarily, live their dream career wise. So I was like, and then I met my wife, and that, changed my thoughts on waiting to get married, even though I got married late. Like, some of my friends were already on their first divorce when I got married. And, that's what they get for getting married in their 20s, man. Yeah. And then we both decided that we wanted to have kids. And I don't think I went into it like I have to do it a certain way. I felt like I was pretty, like I had a solid head on my shoulders. And I think that I'm open-minded enough for today's world and the way that what it takes to raise a kid, and with social media and all this craziness. And we didn't think that, but then we had some snags having kids, and we tried for like 5 years, and didn't look like it was going to happen. And we got lucky and had these 2 kids, and I had them later in life. And yes, the biggest takeaway different from my dad is I couldn't imagine, no matter what happens with me and my wife, I couldn't imagine not wanting to spend every second with these 2, to know every detail of what's going on, and to be there to help them if they need help, or to answer any questions they had, or I just want to, even if they're so buttoned up and perfect, they don't need my help in that way. I just want to know what they're doing, and I want to be involved. I want to be their biggest fan. I want to be their biggest fan. I want to be their biggest supporter. I just want to be there as much as they'll have me, and as much as they want me. And I never want them to need me and not be there.
I feel that way too. And if I can I'll share with you a personal story. So I won't give you all the details, but we ended up getting a divorce right after my son was born. So he was 1 when we divorced, but it was rocky, their relationship. And then we moved down from Michigan to Florida, and never saw him, never came to visit, didn't come to check out a school. And that's why I asked about your age. Like, you get your license, your first prom, like all those, events. And just to banish it is like, how can you not be curious? Like, how are you not curious? And then they stopped talking when he was 15. And I'm just like, I can't wait to watch my son be a parent, or, be a father, because not right now. But what I think is interesting is you have a boy and a girl, and you had a sister. And so do you see where you fall into that? Like, the girl is maybe wrapped around your finger, and, the boy falls, and you're kind of like, get up and you're okay. Like, do you see that you are taking the genders and having your relationship a little different, knowing that you have a boy and a girl?
Yes. Totally guilty on some parts. Guilty on some, and other things, totally more open-minded than my dad about, because the times are different. But definitely the girl has me wrapped. I definitely feel a little more protective. I try and let her get wild and do wild, fun stuff, and, fall and learn that, if you do that, you're going to fall, but it breaks me. So I sound tougher than I really am right now. But then my son, I'm trying to work on it, and because he's younger, and I still, like, when he falls or little things like that, I'm like, shake it off, get up. Yeah, you're good. Don't rub it, man. Don't rub it. It makes it worse. You're good. You're tough. Get through it. And then I'm like, it's so different. Or just like, or like, hey, don't hit your sister. And, just like, you don't hit, like, I don't know. I'm a little tougher on him already with those kind of things, like trying to be gentlemanly and trying to, like, be a little tougher. But then I'm like, I know that I don't care what he does with his life. If he wants to be a baseball player, or he wants to be a ballet dancer, as long as he's happy and healthy and a good person, he can do it all. And like, I see him now even just run around. He loves sports. I see that already, but then he'll go play Barbies with his sister, and he'll throw on a frozen nightgown with her, and they'll be running around in Anna and Elsa nightgowns.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my dad would freak out if I would have been in one, or even if he saw me let my grandson do it. But I'm like, really, at 3 years old, and he wants to wear the Anna dress, he can wear the Anna dress, because look how happy he is and look how much fun he's having.
And Frozen's universal. I mean, shoot, everybody knows the words to Frozen. So looking forward, I know he's only turning 3, so I get that. But eventually there will be guidance from you on what his fatherhood will look like, watching him grow into, whether he has children or not. But let's just, for the sake of this conversation, you're trying to guide him of like what it's like to be a father. What do you think your advice for him will be to take forward in his relationship with his children?
Boy, what a good question. What a deep question too. Because one thing for me being an older dad is I pray that I get to be around to see him have kids, and that I get to be a grandfather. I always tell him too, when I leave to go to the gym or go work out, or he sees me running around, and what are you doing, Dad? They both ask me, and I go, trying to change the odds so I can be here as long as possible for you guys. I go, Daddy works his ass off in the gym so he can live to be 100, so I can see you guys do all these things. And they're like, oh, they kind of are like, well, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about, but all right, if you're going to be here, we're good with it. Yeah.
And run to first base. I need to be able to run to first base.
Yes, I need to be able to run. Yeah, exactly. I need to be able to run you guys around for another 15 years. So Daddy's got to stay pretty spry. Right now, I'm still learning. I think I'm still a work in progress. I think I have strong things, and I still think some things are weak. I think I'm patient, but I want to be even more patient. I think sometimes I talk to him. Some people think it's good. Some people, I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad. I've said that before, but about this too, sometimes I talk to him like they're adults too much, even being just like, there's consequences when you make a decision that this is it. And I'm like, no, you don't, that might be too much. So for someone that's 5 and 3, I think I always want to be more patient, but I want to be stern enough that I'm teaching them and not letting them run around or run all over me or not respect authority. And I think where I'm good is that I listen to them. I listen to what they say and listen to what they ask, and try and be as fair as possible, with also keeping in mind I'm not trying to be their best friend. I'm also trying to be their dad. So I think maybe just that saying right there will be right now what I know of having these 2 young kids is you have to walk that line of trying to be the greatest, coolest dad ever. But you also, being a cool dad also means that you raise them to be good people. And so sometimes that means you got to take things away, or you got to teach them a lesson, or you got to teach them right for wrong, and which isn't as fun, and it's not as fun. So you have to be not always the cool dad. You also have to be the dad that teaches you to be a good grown up one day. And so that's what I would say right now anyways. You want to teach him to be a good person.
Understood. And I think it's a balance every parent has, like being disciplinarian and a friend, right? So let's move to your concern about having kids, right? In the field that you're in. And you currently have an indie production company. Is that what I'm learning?
Yes. A few years back. And then once I started getting hired on some of these independent films, and then seeing what some of these people were doing with making movies with these smaller budgets, and with not being on film anymore, has really changed the game altogether. And a friend of mine cast me, a guy that I knew when we bartended, that, hey, what do you want to do? I want to be a writer and an actor. What do you want to do? I'm just trying to be an actor. And then all of a sudden we reconnected all these years later, and he was producing a movie, and he cast me in a role in it. And it was on location in South Carolina, and it had Billy Baldwin and Danny Trejo. And I was like, wait, you're producing and directing this? Like, how did you do this? He kind of walked me through it, and I was like, wow, I want to do this too. I want to do this too. Can I be like your shadow on the next one of these that you do? And he was gracious enough to, in his next one, let me come on as like an associate producer, and also gave me a part as an actor in that too. And we just hit it off as friends and as coworkers. And he's produced all of these with me, so I've been all the ones that are under my production company. I'll do that. So yeah, I started a production company. I named it after my mom and my wife. It's called Tony Nicole Productions. And we just finished our 5th film in January. And I'm still just like the kids. I did this later in life too, and I'm still learning the game. And I'm with each passing year, I'm learning a little more and a little more. And obviously, the acting side of it, that was what I've brought the most, is the logistics of the acting and knowing managers and agents. And I've been kind of the guy that's been able to be the guy that raises the money for these things. That's been my strong point. And I'm still learning all the technical stuff and all the other things that go along with it. And I really, really like it. I really, really like almost all of it. It's like being the quarterback though, because when things don't turn out, sometimes you get a lot of the praise. You also get a lot of the, when people don't like your movie, or so the critics or the onliners, or I've gotten a thicker skin at that too. But yeah, so we're 5 in. I love doing it. I hope to keep making more, and I'm really excited to see what the future brings. And I'm excited for the movies that we had so far. I'm proud of each one for a totally different reason, but I'm proud of each one.
I did watch Final Wager, and I bought it. So even though I was privy to a link to watch it, I purchased it because I value, I value the views and all that kind of stuff. So I took a watch, and I'm going to say all of this good stuff, but not just because you're on here. I got this really cool Home Alone vibe, meaning like this can be watched any time of the year, and the characters, because there's good, bad, and there's, all of these wonderful twists that happen. I just kind of felt like it was this movie that's going to transcend throughout the year, even though Christmas is part of it, but like it was such a fun watch that I will watch it again. And that's a sign of a good movie, when you just know it's funny and interesting enough. And I want to see what I missed the first time, right? Because you watch these characters, and I was like, oh, I want to pay more attention to this person. And I love, like, it's Jennifer Daly, I believe, who was Stitch.
Yeah, Stitch, yes.
Like, she became my favorite character of like the behind the scenes storyteller in a way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, loved it. Really, really genuinely loved it.
In Final Wager, former sports gambling addict Chance needs $60,000 to save his mother from a nursing home eviction. So he falls back to his old habits, only to learn he's never lost a bet on Christmas. Is this the Christmas miracle he's been waiting for, or just an addict who can't control himself?
I came in here 6 months ago because I almost lost the love of my life because of my gambling. And with the help of these meetings, I proved to her, and more importantly, I proved to myself, my gambling days are behind me. Mom, what is happening?
I was going to wait till after Christmas to tell you.
She forgot to pay her insurance.
What if I could come up with the money?
I need the full amount on December 26th.
No bets, okay?
I won't.
Hello?
Hey, Ian.
I need some money quick.
Never gambled your way out of a debt, man. I want you to log into your gambling website,
Calculate how much money you've won
versus how much you've lost over the years.
I haven't lost a bet on Christmas in 9 years. I need a bookie.
Who do you like?
30K on the Charger.
30? Are you high?
He's gonna place a bet that he cannot cover, and he's gonna ruin his life and Lisa's life.
That is an engagement ring.
What the hell am I supposed to do with this?
I need you to hold on to that stuff as collateral and get my account turned back on so I can bet again.
You're not slick, bro. You're acting exactly how Lisa's dad would act when he was on a gambling bender. Are you gambling again?
No, of course I'm not gambling.
Look, I know you said that you would leave me if I ever started gambling again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely 100% enjoyed watching it, and kudos to you. So congratulations on the release of Final Wager.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for buying it. That was very sweet of you. So appreciate it, because in indie films, that helps us so much. It helps everything.
Scott, I love this time that you spent. You did not have to. I'm so grateful for it. So it was a pleasure spending time with you and getting to know you. I know with everyone else, wishing you so much continued success. But most of all, happy Father's Day, because your two kids are lucky to have you. And I know they're going to be in good hands from here on out with you. And so many baseball games and ballets and whatever ahead for you. But
Yes.
happy Father's Day to you, Scott.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
All right, friends, that's it for this episode of Class Reunion Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show, write us a review, and share this podcast with a friend. Until next time.